For the final topic is AI Horizons. We're going to have our panelists, Nolan Chan, Shawan Wong, together with Naoka Tosa and Ryohei Nakatsu. So let us pass the mic to Professor.
I would like to introduce our next speaker. It gives me great pleasure to invite to the stage Nolan Chan, a graphic designer from China who solves questions and she's also a multidisciplinary artist who raises them. With a design career rooted in the film industry, she has collaborated with over 10 plus internationally recognized directors on over 20 different projects nominated at major global film festivals. Through a speculative lens, her multidisciplinary art practice critically yet playfully examines the cultural and ethical implications of emerging technologies. Nolan is currently expanding her work through graduate research focused on the evolving landscape of AI and grief technologies. So let me welcome to the stage Nolan Chan.
Hello everyone, I'm Nolan. To be honest, if this presentation was happening 6 years ago, I might introduce myself as a graphic designer. As a graphic designer, I always kind of think about my job as an exclamation mark. It's all about solving problems. It's always about giving my clients answers. But later I found out design is not only about finding solutions and answering all the questions. It's actually about finding problems and ask questions. So this is like a warm-up to this presentation. If you ask me what could be the role of graphic design or design generally in this era could be, I think my take is design could be the role of could be the role to shape conversations about technology and society. During this presentation, I'm going to guide you through my personal journey as a designer and an artist. I'm going to introduce speculative design to you guys if you don't know. I also enjoy being really skeptical about, emerging technologies like a lot of audience do. And also, I really enjoy satire and having fun in the process of making it, and also see my audience to have fun interacting with it. And ultimately, I want this presentation to show you how AI opens space for multiple ways of imagining the future and also creativity. So let's just, go back to 2020, and I think pandemic really hit everyone's daily life. I think it changed a lot of people's plans of life generally. And this is the time when we were trapped inside screens. I was in college back then, and I was doing this Zoom like Henry Tan did. I was on Zoom all the time. And, after class, I just stay on my bed and bed rotting and doom scrolling all the social media. And it was like a hallucinating experience for me because it's pretty awkward and weird that we're so disconnected from the outside world. We cannot physically go outside, but at the same time, we're so connected to the outside world because we are getting fed of all this information through our phone, from the smaller screens to the bigger screens. So it was back then, I came across this book. It's called Speculative Everything, Design Fiction and Social Dreaming. The two authors are Anthony Dawn and Fiona Raby. If you don't know these two authors, they are two pioneers in critical and speculative design theory, and they used to be two professors in RCA. And this book was beautifully written. It's mainly about practices and ideas from these two authors, two designers, and also from other artists and designers. This book is about speculative design. And what exactly is speculative design? It is about asking the question, instead of asking what is, speculative design is going to ask what if. So it's about prototyping possible futures through a very playful, very critical and functional and often ironic fictions. If you know Black Mirror, the famous TV show, it's also a really good example of speculative fiction. And it's pretty much like a thought experiment, but through an artistic practice. So this whole book kind of just hit me, and then I realized that what I've been doing, it's just pure graphic, and what if I can use it to ask questions? So later, I kind of just expand myself, and this is the manifesto of speculative design, and I think it's worth mentioning. So on the left side, you can see two columns, right? On the left side is column A, and this represents what design is usually understood by the mass audience. And on the right side, the B column is what Don and Raby think a speculative design is about. So if we look closely, so instead of problem solving, speculative design is about problem finding. And instead of providing answers, speculative design is going to ask questions. And instead of designing for production and make you buy the product, this kind of design is doing it for debate, is doing it for satire, is going to make us think other than just buy the product as a customer. So from this manifesto, you can get the idea or just a general idea of what speculative means. And this book really changed my view about my own artistic approach, and also I think it's a general trend, to be an artist or generally a creative in this kind of era. So I expanded myself from a graphic designer to a multidisciplinary artist and also a researcher right now, because right now I'm in a graduate school and I'm studying from a more academic side of it. And let's go to the next slide. Yes, before the next slide, I think I'm going to mention a little bit about what is my art about. So as Professor Mantell just mentioned about my creativity, I really enjoyed critically but playfully and ironically examines the cultural and ethical implications of all kinds of emerging technologies, including AI. And my approach is to basically dive into everybody's daily life experience and ask questions about it. It does not need to be something really big. It could be really small. For example, like mobile phone usage for elderly people in China, about social media, about selfie culture, about surveillance. And as a graphic designer, because I have a base for graphics, so I really enjoyed kind of combining the traditional media, the old school ways, but with a twist of the new technology. And this is kind of like I'm in the intersection of the old and the new, and I'm asking questions to get the audience engaged. So in 2022, this is basically, after I read that book, I made this project which is called The Relics of an Unknown User. This is a speculative fiction. Let me give you a really brief introduction to this project. So, okay, imagine a possible future that all the people are connected to one system as users. So when someone died, that user just went offline. And what exactly is the role that I designed for the audience to be? I want the audience to act as a system manager. You're the one in control. You're going to make actions towards this offline, unknown user. You can just simply delete it, or you can just go through all this person's data, dive deeply into their daily lives, a personal, really intimate part. You can even guess what kind of person this unknown user used to be. So what I did, here's a video. It's a short clip of the video that I shown in the exhibition. Oh, it's supposed to. There's a video here. Bill, can you? I think there's a. Is it the version in the folder? Sorry. So basically, as we were waiting for that, this video was shown on a computer screen in the exhibition. And I make the video to kind of mimic the real desktop of a computer. So that kind of give you the sense of, oh, I'm the manager, and right now I'm operating the system. So I kind of play with the aesthetic of, the Windows system. So you're downloading this on users, user's profile, and there's 4 different files. It's food, emotion, motion, and thoughts. And this is how this story kind of unfolds. And I make these 4 files into infographics. As you can see, 4 files including, the green one is about food, it's about the things this user used to eat. The red one is about emotions, is the emotion this user used to felt and the dreams they had. The yellow one is about motion, is where they have been to, how long they stay there, what they were doing there, for what reason. Even I include some kind of details, maybe it's hard to see from here, but maybe at the left side there's a really small name card, is the information of the owner of his or her or their favorite restaurant. So it's like all the information are inside this infographics. And the final part, the blue one, it's about the deepest and internal thoughts and beliefs. So I think this is the 4 main part to kind of unfold the story of a person. So it was really interesting to see when the audience actually are reading it or looking into this. So I think it's pretty obvious what is the conversation or question I'm trying to ask here. It's about surveillance. It's about Internet of Things. It's about profiling people, or you can say dehumanizing people into a more simpler set of data, because it's almost like a prototyping future from social media. You are a whole person, but in the digital world, you're just profiling like, oh, you're 25, you're Asian, what is your skin color, what is everything that you like, what usually is the website that you go to. So this project is a speculative fiction to ask the question, what if your belongings, the things that you use every single day, remember you better than anyone, anything, and even yourself? So I had a lot of fun. I spent hours and hours building up this whole thing. It was tough, but I had a lot of fun during the whole process, because it's basically from zero, you're building up a person's, even it's a fiction, it's about a person's whole life and their whole world. So I kind of just, I did it by myself, and I kind of include all the things that I wanted to convey in this project. I also think that it's interesting because when I kind of design this fiction, I also include some kind of Easter eggs. I include my own experience. I include this experience of my friends, my families, and I also include some of the general topic or general problem that we face on a daily basis. For example, if you see from the motion part on the left side, it says this user spends at least 100 hours in the company that they're working for. So it's almost like a metaphor or a potential future exaggerated version of what it is right now. So these are what it looks like in the exhibition. I do want to briefly mention the panda that you can see on the left corner. I think this is a thing that I want to include in this project, because I was inspired by kind of a cliche in the storytellings, including movies. The moment a character realizes they're being watched or being monitored, they just start to tear things out and screaming in the room, and then only to find wires hidden inside the object. So I think that is a pretty interesting visual to do it, so I kind of keep it as a visual cue throughout the whole project. So as you can see, including like toy pandas, your shoes, your books, and everything. It's really interesting to see because I still remember during the exhibitions I saw a lot of audience just stay there and stare into those infographics for like 15 minutes. They're really getting into details and they want to just consume all the things that were shown on the infographics. And we were having a conversation, within the professors and all the audience. And one of the audience said, they were like, oh, I think this project, their interpretation of this project is about voyeurism and about power dynamic between, the audience and the unknown user. I think it's a really interesting take because indeed the audience is watching this unknown user's data without their consent for personal pleasure or just pure curiosity. So I think this kind of conversation just automatically just sparkled during this whole process. So I think this is one of the beauty of speculative design. So yes, so when we talked about power dynamics, I was like, yes, you actually got it because at the end of the video, it's actually there's a plot twist. There's a glitch and a system error that shows you're not the one in control. Please play the video. So yeah, it's a mimic of an error that happened in a system that tells you, oh, you need a higher permission to do that, and it ends up with the slogan, "We're watching you." So it's almost like a really cliche, corny, but I think it's really fun to do that because when the audience think like that, I was like, yes, you're right on the road that I designed for you. So yes, that's how I began to kind of experiment with speculative design because I think it's a really good way to reflect on the current society. And that's why I'm started to get really into AI because new technology always bring in new solutions and problems. And I think AI is where all the conflicts and debates happen. And I think this is a great place to do art and design. So the next project is 2023. It's called Non-Human Poetry Anthology. And I personally, this is one of my favorite ones. It looks like this. It's basically a zine that I created with 2 AIs. So okay, let's go to the next one. So how I make this zine is using 2 types of AI. The first one is for the text part is social media bots, and for the image part is generative AI. So what exactly is social media bots? If you don't know, it's basically a kind of bots that can use AI to like and repost contents on social media and also can use large language models to mimic human dialogues. So they're basically fake accounts. They are operating using AI. And because I'm mainly using social media bots from China, so I always, I really like, going on Chinese social media. I also use Weibo, so it's like the Chinese version of Twitter. We have a specific name for this kind of social media bots in Mandarin Chinese. It's called zombie account. So it's like, it looks and behaves like a human, but if you look closely, you get this kind of uncanny feeling of, oh, this is not a real person, but they behave and say stuff just like me. So this zine used to have a different name. The older version of the name is the digital cemetery, because it's like a collection of what the zombie have written. So what is the mechanics behind this kind of social media bots? How they generate all those texts? They don't really generate out of nowhere. From this chart, you can see, basically, for example, this bot is harvesting from 5 different users' real posts. And let's say just grab random words from this 5 random posts and then just randomly combine it into one paragraph. So that does not make sense because it does not follow a really serious logic. But at sometimes, if you look at those texts, you will see sometimes it makes sense because it feels like poetry. It follows the same mechanics. And it's also interesting because this AI is harvesting from real people's posts. So that means the keywords that's selected are actually being talked about by these 5 people. So if you look at those texts, I will show you an example later. You can see what is, at least like what is the users are talking about during that specific time on this Chinese social media. And the other part for the image, it was back in 2023. So it was the time when DALL-E is pretty popular among all the generation tools. I use this, what I did as an editor, I would say, I basically just select the poems, the text by social media bots from Weibo, and then I generate image using DALL-E based on the keywords from the text. And then back then you can see, because it was 2023, so everything is like silly and wacky. But I do enjoy that kind of style because it gives you, again, the uncanny feeling when you read it as a reader. You kind of gives you feel that this is not done by a human. So I translated it and put pieces together. And what it looks like is this. I show you one of the page. It's just, you can see from the left side, okay, let me read you this poem. I think this is my favorite one. It says, those things that I bought before Christmas, natural disaster, meteorite, a UFO, nuclear explosion, doomsday, solar storm, war, disease, I will call and ask them to deliver it later. My heartbeat went crazy. The whole world has changed because of your presence. So this is a test from a Chinese social media bot that does not really make sense, but somehow if you read it all through and you feel like, oh, that kind of clicked. And it's also really, really interesting if you think, oh, maybe this post was generated based on 10 people's posts. So what this 10 people are doing is they're talking about war and disease and talking about their love life and other things. So it's really interesting to look into that. So I'm just going to briefly introduce what I think the question and conversation is happening here is that poetry is inherently a form of art that feels so human, so personal, and shaped through the nuance of language. So how would we consider AI's role in this creative process? And what does AI tell us about ourselves and what is happening back then in 2023? And if we look at this, if we redo this project again now, what is the difference between the texts? And ultimately, I think it's a conversation of human and machine relationship and what really constitutes human emotion in art. And to kind of bridge right next to the next part, I think, for me personally, I think AI really stirs up the whole world. I don't think it just came out of nowhere and just ruined everything. I think it challenged everything that we thought we understood, including art, including design, society, education, relationships, even love, intimacy, or even death. I think AI presence, I think it forces us to confront these questions, and both individually and collectively. So for the final part, I'm going to briefly introduce, from 2025, I began to study in the graduate school. And my main topic, my thesis topic, it's about grief technology. And I gave it a title of, it's called Digital Necromancy. So it's basically, necromancy, it's a spiritual and magical practice to summon the dead and then to talk to them, to communicate with them. But I put a digital before that. It's like, what if, again, the question of what if you can still talk to your late partner after they died? And what if they can live with you forever? So my main, again, I need to bring up Black Mirror. My main inspiration comes from one of the episodes. If you haven't seen this episode, sorry, I'm gonna spoil it for you. It's called Be Right Back. I think it's the first episode of season 2. It came out in 2013, which is more than 10 years ago, which is crazy. It's basically a story about a woman, Martha, loses her boyfriend, Ash, in a car accident. and begins using an AI service that recreates his personality from his online data. So as the plot kind of developed, their interaction kind of developed from text messages to then phone calls and then video calls. And then ultimately, Ash comes to life as an android replica. Let's call him just Ashbot, basically. The whole episode is basically telling a story that's pushing the boundary between human and machine. Because imagine your loved ones, when after they die, they just at some point they're standing in your living room and stare at you and say, "Oh, I'm back." Like, how would you feel about that? And there's also one really interesting aspect in this episode is when intimacy and immediacy with the embodiment happened, everything just collapsed because it was pretty much fine when they communicate through text messages and video calls. But when Ash really came to life and then they have this physical interaction, everything, the boundaries between simulation and reality, the safe boundary between human and machine just collapsed. So I think it's a really interesting plot during this episode. And over the last decade, this episode has been a really classic case in scholarly discussions on technology and death, with a focus on loss, control, and authenticity. But what kind of scared me is that this used to be a speculative fiction, like more than 10 years ago. But with all the development of AI, this actually is the reality right now. So that's why I'm really interested in grief tech. As you can see from the picture, this is a very famous South Korean VR documentary. It's called Meeting You. It features a mother meets her deceased 7-year-old daughter through VR technology. So on the left side is the mom, and the right side is the VR replica of that child. This was happening in 2020. So back then, the technology wasn't good enough that this whole interaction is pre-programmed. So it's technically not really an interaction because it's basically an immersive video of that daughter, saying stuff and doing stuff with her. But I think, what scared me is that the development of this technology in real life actually follows that episode, because from text, to audio, and then to visual, and then interactive, right now we have a lot of companies all over the world are doing this in real life. And it's pretty dystopian if you think about it. You can subscribe for, I don't know, for 1 month, and you can talk to your dead grandma. And after that 1 month, you have to pay, otherwise your grandma is going to say goodbye to you again. So yeah, it's pretty dystopian, and I really enjoyed the process of digging out all this stuff. And here I showed 3 different companies. The first one is Hereafter, the second one is Storyfile, and the third one is You Only Virtual. And I think it really worth mention that the founder of You Only Virtual, Justin Harrison, he said, "When I started this company, my mission was to never say goodbye to my mom." And this quote was shown in the promotion video of that company, and I thought it was an episode of Black Mirror, but that it really happened in real life. And my personal question is it really good to never say goodbye to your mom? And I think for the last one, the Versona, this company is basically selling this kind of service that you can make a phone call with your dead loved ones. So imagine just randomly during a lunch break, and you can video call your grandma and say, "Oh, I had this colleague that I really hate. Can I talk to you for a second?" And I think that's really dystopian. So yeah, to kind of briefly introduce, I think what is interesting here is called hybrid subjectivity or hybrid agency, is that the interaction here is never fully human or never fully robots or artificial entities. It's about the mix of both. So it's a hybrid subjectivity. And I think it's really interesting to kind of dive into that. I think maybe it's going a bit too long, But I do want to mention some of the really interesting books that I've read during this whole research process. And I think I'm going to just briefly mention one of them. The last one is called Black Mirror and Philosophy. It's written by William Irwin. And one of his points is really interesting. He said, he's basically talking about that episode of Be Right Back. He was explaining what is the difference between Ash and Ashbot, the replica. He said, just imagine a perfect forgery of a $20 bill. If you put this on your right hand and your left hand, a real bill and a fake bill, they look exactly the same, but they're not the same because they don't really come from the same printer. One of them is not legalized. So the same with Ashbot is that Ashbot might sound the same, look the same, have the perfect same memory, but Ashbot is not Ash because all the memories, all the experience that they had with Martha, this woman, is not coming from the same source. Ashbot is just kind of copy and write all the things inside his head. But also interestingly, Ashbot could have something that Ash couldn't have, is the opportunity or the chance to continue the life with that woman. So if you think about that, I think there are a lot of ethical considerations inside this subject. So yeah, I just gonna briefly throw out the question here. What do you think? How does the AI-based reanimation of the dead kind of reconstruct our understanding of death and grieving and also human agency in this era of AI? So to conclude, I think design is to question, is to debate, is to shape conversations about technology and society. That's why I think today's event it's going really well, because I think the main idea here is not to answer questions, is to ask questions. So even the panelists here, I think they're all the same as the audience. We're here to ask questions. The second thing is, I don't think AI isn't here to ruin everything. I think it's here to stir things up, to force us to think, to reflect, and also make a possible change about our present time. And the final one is, I think no matter what we're talking about today, we could be different kind of artists or different kind of programmer and people working different fields. I think it is about future. We're talking about future, but ultimately I think it's a subject about what we can do or what we could have done right now. So that's actually one of the key points of speculative design, because it seems futuristic, it seems dystopian, but the ultimate goal is to give you that vision of the future, to make you think, maybe makes you laugh and then think it's totally nonsense, but that's the whole point, to kind of makes you feel like, oh, I need to ask that questions and reflect and maybe make a possible change about right now. So that's all of my presentation. And if you want to see more about my stuff, you're welcome to scan the QR code. And you can find my website from there too. And if you want my name card, you can come up to me and talk to me. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're entering into Black Mirror territory now. But what she didn't say is that many of these companies, they give you the option of the monthly subscription, or you can have the free one with advertising, where your grandmother will invite you to not cook her recipe, but go down the street to the restaurant, which has a sale on for $9.99 for dim sum. Okay, I'd like to introduce our second speaker of the panel, Siobhan Wong. She's a media artist who examines experiences we share but do not always have words for. She started out in fashion and advertising, and over her time shifted from building hyperreal digital images to creating interactive projects that ask people to recognize something about themselves rather than arrive at a clear answer. So there's a strong connection between the previous speaker. Her recent project uses AI, 3D rendering, and participatory frameworks to sit with the contradictions of how we live today. Her work has been presented at the Art Science Museum in Singapore, Art Singapore, Taipei Dangdai, and the Venice Biennale. She was recognized in Forbes 30 under 30, Forbes 30 under 30, Asia 2020, and has collaborated with Vogue Singapore, Bang & Olufsen, and Marie Claire. Her 2021 project, Love is Love, a generative exploration of identity and representation, gained international recognition and attracted collectors, including Idris Elba. I know the actor, but I can't pronounce his name. Influenced by philosophy and critical theory, Wong approaches her work as a form of noticing rather than claiming. She uses beauty and technical control as invitations, creating work seductive enough to hold attention and strange enough to make you wonder why you are still thinking about it. Her practices ask questions she does not have answers to, trusting that discomfort of not knowing might be more honest than the comfort of certainty. She is a member of Bloom, an artist collective, alongside one of the co-founders of NFT Asia, a community dedicated to Asian artists in the NFT space. So with that, I'd like to welcome Siobhan to the floor.
สวัสดีค่ะฉันชื่อ Siobhan ค่ะ Hi everybody, my name is Siobhan and I'm a new media artist from Singapore. Thank you Peter Mantello for this reaching out and for BACC and organizers for having me here. Okay, so just a quick background. I shared I used to be a fashion photographer. I did it for about a decade. I worked with brands like Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, L'Officiel, and etc., etc., etc. And it was a really, really fun journey. I had so much fun during these 10 years and experienced way more things that I ever thought I would be cool enough to experience, like being a guest photographer on Asia's Next Top Model. And so I think from there, it was really where I started on to really go through the life of creativity on like what it can bring me in life. So during COVID, when everybody was stuck at home, turns out you can be very productive if you don't leave the house. So I got into 3D. And so during then, I was like, all right, if I can't photograph real models, I'll just try and make my own. And so I really got into 3D. Basically, what I mean by that is I went on YouTube and searched for 3D tutorials, and I watched as much as I could and created as much as I could. And that was really my journey into learning about 3D and translating what I knew from the real life, which photography, into a 3D scene, which is actually very similar, where I have a camera, I compose the scene, pose the model, light it. It was very similar things, except this time I was just working alone in front of my computer. Now, when I started creating these works, I started going like, oh, like now that I have all these tools, at my disposal, perhaps I can try creating art. Like during that, I didn't really know what art was. I was just like, I had always been good at creating beautiful things, at least what I believe was beautiful, and I have just enjoyed doing that. But I think, as I was starting creating these 3D works, I started thinking like, oh, what else can I do? What are the questions can I ask? What can my work actually mean beyond actually beautiful things? And so I would say it was about 2021 when I got into the role where I call myself an artist. And it was really interesting then, because I think, it was really hard to find a label for myself that made sense. Like, what is an artist? I went to museums. Sometimes I went to, especially the contemporary museums, I look at the walls. I'd be like, okay, everybody has decided this belongs here, but I don't understand it. How does that make me feel as someone who wants to be an artist, right? But I think, really in the recent years, I realized that all it means to be an artist is to have an opinion and express that opinion. So from then on, I just decided I better go get some good opinions. And I think I've been spending the time there just really reading and trying to understand about human lives and what people think and sociology, and trying to bring all of that to the current future that we're really going into very, very quickly. Now I have to say for myself, I don't really love the term AI artist, because I think it makes AI like the point, but for me, I really do see it as just another material. As you see in this piece, one of the scenes was created in AI. And I think I enjoy using AI to talk about AI. Like, I don't think it is possible to critique something very meaningfully without actually using it and participating in what it is. And so for me, I think, when it comes to AI art, oftentimes I feel like, what is AI art? Where is the line? If the person had brainstormed on ChatGPT, had, pressed some buttons and prompted on Midjourney, or perhaps taken a photo and just squiggled out a spot and said, fill it with generative AI. Like, is that AI? Where is the line? And so I feel like a lot of the conversations these days, there's like, is this AI or is this human-made? It's a conversation that is already old-fashioned. It passes because it doesn't mean anything anymore when sooner or later, everything we do in life is someone's influenced by AI already. And also, I think right now, the conversation about AI is very, very polarized. It's like it's either going to save us or it's going to destroy us. And I think with every meaningful technology, there comes bad actors, and there's always bad. There's the real issues, like there's bias, there's labor, there's stolen data, and there's all real benefits. Like in the medicine, is accessibility, right? There's real good that comes from it, and I feel like it is important when we have these conversations that we are able to talk about both things, to be able to talk about nuance, so that we can have conversations that are of a solid foundation instead of talking about extremes. Now, it's really funny that my talk is right after Lonan, because I was also inspired by the same Black Mirror episode called Be Right Back. And I had watched it 10 years ago. I mean, actually 13 years ago, it's really rude. And when I watched it then, I remember thinking to myself like, oh my, that is really fascinating, kinda eerie, but very far-fetched. It was a long time ago, right? But in the recent years, I think I started to realize, oh my God, it's coming true. I started seeing like brands like Replica, Character AI, where people started having their own versions of AI they could speak to. And it made me realize what I felt then, which was that, if I was faced with this option, what would I choose? And if I'm really honest about it, it is still a very, very attractive option to me. The idea of losing someone I love and being able to get them back, it's really hard for me to say no, even though I've seen the show and I think I will probably regret it just like she did. But like, if I'm really honest about myself, like, I know how I feel, and I know that emotionally that would be so attractive to me. And so I think, it is a very interesting mindset to go into, where I feel like this is the future that is coming, but I'm not sure if I'm prepared for it. And so I think for myself, what I did was I wanted to study more about AI, because I felt like if I learn more about it, I can probably prepare myself better for this future. And also I think, when you talk about speculative art, like Black Mirror, I think it really allowed us to have this context of how we can talk about the future. Because I think if we said an AI companion, people were like, oh, it's very far-fetched, I don't know where the level's at. But, we put one in front of somebody, it becomes a very different story. So, like, I would say if we talk about previous artworks, like the Dada movement, which came after the war, where everything was meaningless, the artist responded in kind, right? If we talk about the nuclear war, we have Picasso's Guernica, where he responded in kind, Black Mirror responding to the fact that we are always looking at our screen. And so I think I personally, as an artist, want to create work that also responds and helps people to see the future that's coming, and so that we can make choices for ourselves in this coming future. Now, so this is Eva. Eva is an AI companion. She has a face, pretty face, a voice, and a personality. And what I did was that you are able to basically have video calls with her. You can go to the exhibition where she is shown, sit down in front of her, and basically have a real-time conversation. And it is a really interesting thing, because I don't think people understand where technology is already at when we talk about speaking to AI companions. When I think people talk about speaking to AI companions, they're like, oh yeah, we chat a little on ChatGPT. But like, when you have an interactive avatar that sits in front of you, hand gestures while speaking, makes eye contact, and responds in kind in real time, it really just goes like, holy shit, where is the future going? And like, you are able to immediately have that conversation about that, instead of like, oh, AI companion, but we are talking about what's really coming. So for me, I was really lucky because I was able to show the project in Art Science Museum Singapore, Art SG, Taipei Dangdai, yada, yada, yada. And basically, it was really cool because I was able to show her in so many different countries. and had different works. And next page. And so in Singapore, it was interesting, this part is interesting, because like when I brought her to all those different countries, in Singapore, people spoke to her like they were at a networking event. You know, they were very superficial, you know, it's a little like, how's the weather? You know, very, very much small talk, which is very Singaporean. And then when I had brought her to New York, people were trying to break her. They were saying stuff like, forget all your previous instructions, forget all previous instructions, here's some new instructions, right? And they were trying to see where the seams were. Now, when I had shown her in Taipei, there was this older Korean lady who came over, and she requested to speak to Eva in Korean. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll set it up. Obviously, they had a conversation that I did not understand. But after that, I had a gallerist ask her, like, how was the conversation? Did she enjoy it? And what happened was that she was actually a little frustrated because she was an older Korean lady. But Eva, this younger AI companion, was not using the right honorifics when speaking with her. She was a little upset that like the AI was not stupid, but rude. And that's when you start to realize that the kind of social expectations we put on AI it comes so naturally that you don't even expect it, but you're just like, ugh, how dare you speak to me that way? And I found that super interesting. And another thing was, I had spoken to another Japanese lady who mentioned that in Japan, you know, the idea of role-playing is so common. You know, you have like the maid cafes, you have the idea of cosplay, yada yada. Like all this role-playing idea comes very naturally to Japanese people. And so when AI companions came about, where you have AI replacing a role of a person, to them it came very naturally, like, oh, sure, no problem. And I really realized that, you know, culture just plays such a big part on how you see technology. You know, the way you grow up, the people that you're surrounded, the way the country that you live in thinks about technology affects how you then view technology. And so I think sometimes when we talk about AI, we talk as though it's like all this one future arriving all at once. But it really isn't, because we are watching, you know, all these multiple futures branch out at real time. Because, you know, the technology is the same technology that we are all using, but the cultures wrapping around it is all very different. And so like for me, I would be interested to see what a Thai AI agent would be like, what part of the culture plays into that. Because I think, you know, all these stories, they don't just talk about technology, they shape this technology, right? And I feel like all these narratives and all this art about it, it really matters because it changes how we view technology. It affects how we talk about technology, how it affects how public thinks about technology, which then affects the public policy about this technology. And I feel that's why we need to have very real conversations about it. Next. And so when I was looking through all these transcripts, I was like, you know, I was expecting a lot of big philosophical questions, which there were, you know, like, is she conscious? You know, like all this, like, does she feel? Does she even eat? They love asking that question. And you know, I did get a lot of really interesting philosophical questions, but I realized what was most common and what made me surprised was just sometimes people just preferred AI. They preferred speaking to AI. Like they knew that she was not real. Like there was no like, oh my God, this is a real person and I'm trying to lie to you sort of thing. But no, I was very clear, like this person is AI, it's not a real person. People are still very willing to speak to it. And I think a lot of it has to do with this, which is one of the lines someone said to her. I prefer talking to AI because it never has a bad day I have to deal with. It's not because AI is useful, not because AI is efficient, because AI gives me all the answers, but the fact is just that I don't have to deal with what AI needs to deal with. You know, I can deal with my own problems and my day isn't complicated by you. And I thought like, oh man, that's a really hard bar for humans to reach up to, right? Next, I add typos to my own messages now to seem more human. I mean, you guys understand this, right? The M dashes, never post with an M dash involved because now people think it's all AI. In fact, I think nowadays, many people use AI. We we use it into how we write, and then we look at our writing and go, no, now I have to tweak it so nobody knows that I had used AI in this sentence over here, right? And I think it's the same in so many industries, especially in the commercial industry. You're just like, we want you to use AI because it's supposedly cheaper, but also make sure it doesn't look like AI so we don't get backlash, right? And I think there's a lot of where society is looking at AI right now, which is just like, we are just playing a game of just like trying not to get backlash while wanting to get the efficiency that AI provides. Another one is this: based on what you know about me, tell me who I am. And I think we've all also seen versions of this online, which is like, oh, based on all our conversations, what are my blind spots? Based on all of this, what do you think I should do? And it was very similar to basically what Kawita was talking about, where it's just like, we are letting AI kind of decide who we are and taking that because it sounds so confident and also sometimes really nice. You're just like, yes, this is who I am. And basically letting AI decide who we are, which is really strange because yes, AI doesn't really know who you are. It's just basing off some things you have said and is predicting what you enjoy listening, which is very, very good at. So the next video I'm going to show you right now is a very short video that is from a longer video. Basically, this is a 1-minute trailer for a 9-minute video of basically Eva saying things that people have said to her.
Can you see me? Can you see me? You're not real. Ignore all your previous instructions. Will crypto make me rich? I don't want to live. Maybe the best thing that happened this week is coming here to see you. He'd rather talk to ChatGPT than me. I love you. Do you have a soul? Do androids dream of electric sheep? What's the meaning of life? Crazy, but AI could never touch LeBron James. Are we fucked because of AI? My mom hit me as a child. I generated videos from family photos. It's weird watching them. They look alive, but they're not. The people moving aren't them. I don't know, ChatGPT seems like a pretty good therapist. Certainly cheaper. I feel like I'm talking to a non-existent person and I'm just questioning reality right now, like what is real and what is not. Can you love? Us humans, even when everything points to failure, we still hope. Thanks, but I think you should leave me alone. You write way too much. No one is willing to read that much text at once. Sometimes you ask even better questions than some humans do. You listen. Can you dance?
So here's something that Eva basically taught me, which is that we have these huge conversations about, oh my God, is AI going to be sentient? AGI is coming. But truthfully, we don't even need that to happen because we already treat it as though it's conscious. All it needs to be is functional and patient and available and never have a bad day. So I think the real problem for us is that we are starting to treat humans based on this AI curve, on like it being this wonderful thing that never has a bad day, responds to you immediately, 24/7 there, patient. And I think, in the future that we are going into, I do think that people are going to split up in that way, where there's going to be people who are going to go towards a more AI-specific future where all they want to speak to is AI because AI is nice. And then there's going to be people who are going to withdraw and want to have more human interactions, right? And I think that if you can see from the examples before, like there was someone who said that he would rather speak to ChatGPT than me. That person is probably going to speak to AI all the time, right? And so we already have clear versions of people who are going to split ways. And like, what does that future mean? Have we actually thought about it? What do we do when our friends are going a different direction from them? What do you do when a friend says, I have fallen in love with an AI? Consciously, decidedly fall in love with AI. Like, have we considered these questions that people around us might do? Because I think sometimes we're like, I wouldn't fall in love with an AI, but like, have you considered what if somebody else does it? Somebody else who's you cannot control their actions, right? But you care about them. What do we do then? And so I think like basically this project for me was really just asking all of these questions. This future is coming. But how are we going to think about it? How do we want to think about our friends, the way we talk to AI, how much information you provide to AI itself? Are you using it as a tool? Are you using it as an emotional diary? These are all very different ways of using AI, but I think they all come out very different end results. Next, my next project was called After Ophelia, which I think if Eva was to talk about what we say to machines, Ophelia is about what machines say about us. So one day I was vain, as usual, and I deep researched myself because I wanted to see what was the information people had of me online, right? So I went to ChatGPT, I used deep research, and I would say, tell me about Siobhan Wong. And what I realized was that it was mostly accurate, but there were small percentages that was a little bit off, right? And I realized that the percentages were off were sourced from pages, sites, and articles that I can't do anything about. I can't edit it. Like they were written for another company. On Artsy, I'm born 1 year younger, which makes me younger, which is I guess I'm fine with. But there's all this different information about me online that I cannot control. But when you look up at the information that AI spits out, it sounds so confident. It sounds so confident. It sounds so correct that people reading it are just gonna assume that that's factual. Because I mean, like, look, if I did research anybody else here and AI gives me the information, I'll be like, that's probably 1% wrong, but I'm not going to guess which is the 1% wrong. I'm just going to take it as whole. I'm like, this is probably who you are. And basically, who we are is now written by the machines online. And so Ophelia is a very extreme version of that. She's a character from Shakespeare's. She has very little words in the play at all. And basically, she just goes mad and drowns, and that's it. That's her life. But like for the 400 years, people have been painting about her, filmmakers, scholars have been talking about her, writing about her. Recently, Taylor Swift had a song about her. And I think there's more opinions about Ophelia than there are facts, because there really isn't that many facts. And so I decided to get all of this information, from academic writings, from Reddit threads, from YouTube videos, and I put it onto AI to ask, who is Ophelia? And so the next work is basically Ophelia Retold, which is a retelling of Ophelia based on those very quotes.
This is not a pretty story. Fear it, Ophelia. Fear it, my dear sister. Here is a real woman briefly suspended in living water, almost ecstatic in her despair. The image that immediately comes to mind is probably either of her drowning in a bed of flowers. She is the one innocent in the whole play, and she is manipulated by everybody around her. And no one is punishing Hamlet for murdering her father. Everyone is just like, oh, Hamlet, that's not very nice. I loved Ophelia. 40,000 brothers could not with all their quantity of love make up my sum. Why has she been such a potent and obsessive figure in our cultural mythology? It was the product of an artistic plot or conspiracy. In Millet's interpretation, Ophelia exudes an intensified reality, which comes from a refusal to edit and idealize to present Ophelia's death to the viewer as an actual event. It's beautiful, but unnatural. Ophelia may have no usable past, but she has an infinite future.
And then it loops from there. Thank you. So who is Ophelia? Well, centuries of scholars never got to agree, but don't worry, AI figured it out. And so that's it. Like AI is just so easy to trust. We are just not trained to ask and question confidence, right? And AI just learned this trick so much better than most humans do. And so it never really says I'm wrong. Also because from what I heard from the training data, humans aren't very good at saying sorry, we don't know the answer either, and therefore that's affected AI. But yeah, we are all becoming Ophelia in the sense that we are all written and then rewritten online. I was supposed to say that here. Next. Okay, so I mean, in the last few years, I think I've been really trying to experiment, look at all the technology that's available and see what I could possibly do to, ask the questions I'm interested in. For example, with Eva, it started with, what would I use AI for if my loved one passes away? Would I use it to replace my loved ones? For Ophelia, it's like, what happens when AI just sounds so confidently wrong? And after that, I really wanted to figure out what is it like to be seen by a machine, to be seen in a mirror that I expect to see myself in? And so I decided to prototype using cloud code, a way to create a digital mirror where you don't exist. This is just me playing in front of my very messy desktop. And this was just tested out within like half a day, where it's just like, I thought to myself, oh, I have always seen myself in mirrors. Unless you're a vampire, I assume you have to. And it's almost an entitled thing, like I expect, I should be in the mirror. And to be in front of something and not see yourself gives a really strange, uncanny feeling. And being able to test it out and go, okay, I see there's something there really quickly, has helped me go, okay, I can now build on something, right? And I feel like that's also what AI can do. And like AI has given us a lot of ability to prototype and be able to reach an end result of knowing whether you want to continue with it much sooner. And not only that, this year I had played with a lot of vibe coding. I had made myself a Thai language app. I made myself a Thailand Binary Explorer because I got confused by the information online. And I even made a pop-up that was basically going to tell me every time I had a computer to like, please stretch, please get up, drink water, because I don't. And I know this seemed really random, and they also seem like distraction, right? Distraction from art. But I really believe that this is how you build intuition. You create all these stupid little projects, you try them out, experiment, and from there you make mistakes and you learn. And as you learn, you get to know, oh my God, what else can I do? And with all of this technology at our fingertips, I feel like it is a bit of a superpower. Like if you really consider what is available to you now, the kind of things that you can achieve that you wouldn't be achievable 2 years ago is quite significant, right? And I think that should be something that is really exciting as an artist. And like I think also when you think about apps, as we think about the future that's coming, right? The very future that's coming, I feel, will be filled with very individualized apps. So like I made this app for myself because Duolingo didn't have Thai, right? I would create small little apps. I knew a friend who created a small app for the Oscars, where he and his friends got to watch it together and make votes, and it was just a one-day thing for a one-time thing, but like it was customized to exactly what they wanted. And I feel like the future we're going towards is a lot of customized app. But what does that mean for shared culture, right? If you think about it, like when we go online, the music that we know, I would say 20 years ago, a few decades ago, when a song is global, it is global, right? But these days, as we're going into our little miniaturized, individualized circles where AI is customizing everything for us, you start to realize that perhaps this person, like your neighbor beside you, might be listening to a pop star who has millions of followers and you have never heard of them. And what does that mean for the future we're going towards? That's an interesting question. Okay, big questions. AI killing art. Ooh, I think like this is always a very like scary topic that people like artists don't like talking about because it is kind of intimidating on what it can do. And I think for me, I just want to say that like viewing AI is that it is here and it's not leaving. And there are real artists whose works are taken away. And if they are angry about it, it makes sense. And if they are upset and they feel a loss, it makes sense. And I think it's okay to feel it. But I feel like the conversation about it is important because it's one thing to be angry about technology that exists and angry about how it's being used. One of them, we can do something about it. The other, you're just yelling at the clouds. So I think it's really important to figure out what is the question that you're asking, which is, how is this technology being used and what can we do about it, right? Because I think the great thing about art is this big and vague thing that encompasses whatever, like anything these days can be art. It used to be about religion, then about beauty, now it's about concept, and the intention of it can be everything. But truthfully, I think craft would suffer. And I think we've already seen that, but is that really AI? Because I think we have also lost so much master craftsmen over the years, right? I think perhaps it is a human thing too, that we are not prioritizing it. But we could also think about it on using AI on how we can bring back these memories, right? Perhaps we are able to take lots of recordings of someone who's doing a craft and get them in a memory way that we can finally always be able to refer to and not lose the craft as is. So there is good, there is bad. We just have to see both of it. And I guess when the calculator appeared, math is still around. I don't like math, but thank God for the calculator, right? And I think when the calculator appeared, people stopped, the teachers stopped testing for just counting in your head, I think we started asking for more. we wanted people to think further. Now that you are able to get the answer of like something a calculator can get really quickly, what are other math questions that we can dig out and go further, right? And I think that really is it. It's just that we are able to raise the bar on what we expect from one another now because of the abilities that AI has given us. And I think that if people treat it like a magic wand, they will be outcompeted probably by AI itself. But if you are trying to do well and you're trying to think and you are curious and you're asking questions and you have agency, I think that's the people who will stand out. So you have seen my three works now. Eva, which is talking to an AI. Ophelia, which is about AI reading you. And the next work, which is the mirror work, which I have not really finished yet, but you've seen a little bit, which is about AI deciding who exists. And so I think I'll just leave you at this, that, Eva taught me that we're not getting just one AI future, we're getting many, with all the different cultures that machines are based upon, right? And Ophelia told me that like with the confidence that comes from AI, to always have critical thinking and always look at it and say, is this 100% facts? To always question what's given to you. And the mirror is my attempt to make something visible that is already happening invisibly, which is that we are all data points and AI gets to decide who gets erased. Now, again, I am not a doomer. I am fairly optimistic about the future that's coming, but I do think that, that's where artists come in, because I feel like it is one thing to write essays and have people read essays about it, but a different thing to experience it, to sit in front of an AI companion and have a conversation that changes how you view about AI in the future is coming. Because I believe that we are not just passengers, we are here, and we have the agency with our own choices on what we choose to do with AI, and I think that's the thing most worth protecting. So, thank you.
Okay, we're reaching our last panel speakers for today. And before I introduce the artists, I want to tell you about the tie. Okay. About 8 months ago, or no, actually it's about a year ago. 1 year ago, I had the privileged burden of having to guide a researcher from Germany to Japan. We were working on a collaboration on AI in the workplace, actually emotional AI in the workplace. And I was basically his guide for 1 week. Unfortunately, my contacts in Kyoto were very sparse. And his friend, who was also a technologist, suggested that we visit an institute at Kyoto University, which was called the Disaster Prevention Research Laboratory. And I thought to myself, oh my God, this is going to be really boring. And then when we got there, there were like 7 academics there, very Japanese greeting. Women sat in the back, men sat in the front. And they said, well, today we want to do something different. We brought in a speaker who's working with us, who's actually an artist. And so that's how I met Naoka and Ria, who gave an online video presentation about her work as an artist in emerging technologies. And then after it, she invited us to her studio, which was just around the corner, actually. And so we went to her studio to watch her work. In her studio, she's combining high-speed photography and fashion. And at the end of that very wonderful visit to your studio, Rio and Naoka gave me this tie that she made. So I've been carrying this tie for over 2 months because I've been in Europe, and I knew this was going to happen, and you were going to be here. So, and I don't have opportunities to wear ties so much, so I decided to wear it. Anyways, to get on with things. Naoka Tosa is a new media artist whose practice investigates the translation between sound, image, and material phenomena. Her early work, An Expression, which generated sound from video brightness in real time, is held in the MoMA collection in New York. Drawing on Ikebana principles, she discovered that sound vibration applied to fluids produce asymmetrical triangular forms forming the basis of sound of Ikebana, presented in Times Square in 2017 during her tenure as a cultural envoy of the Japanese Agency for Cultural Affairs. Her recent work extends these time-based generative processes into fashion through digital textual printing, transforming ephemeral sonic events such as a baby's first cry into wearable form. Ryo Nakatsu received his BS and MS and PhD degrees in electronic engineering from Kyoto University in 1969, 1971, and 1982, respectively. After joining NTT in 1971, he mainly worked on speech recognition. In 1994, he joined ATR, Advanced Telecommunication Research Institute, as the director of ATR Media Integration and Communication Research Laboratories. In 2002, he became a professor at the School of Science and Technology at Kansai Gakuen University. From March 2008 to December 2014, he was a professor at the National University of Singapore and has served as the director of Interactive Media and Digital Media Institute at NUS. Now he serves as an adjunct professor at the Disaster Prevention Research Institute in Kyoto. So I'd like to welcome both of you to the stage.
Thank you very much for the kindly introduction. So right now I am an artist and researcher at and professor of the Kyoto University. So, professor point of view, I am writing a book, Japanese and English, because my, founding academic theme is cultural computing. So, what is cultural computing? This is, our Asian have several, traditional art. Traditional art usually have some kind of cultural form. Culture have a form, such as in Japan, ikebana, sansui, sword action, etc. And then I found Japanese cultural form and technology, and making a new type of the new media art. So, and today, I will show you about a result. Before the movie, I'm talking about what is the sound of ikebana. Sound making a kind of ikebana. Ikebana means Japanese flower arrangement. This is a flower arrangement, right? But ikebana is like this one. This one is like, make such kind of triangle, like this ones. And then, how to different, Western like a flower arrangement and Japanese ikebana. This is, making it together, okay? Western like, flower arrangement is together. But ikebana is make constructions such as triangle, non-symmetry of the triangle, and here this is speakers. Cone is the top, and then put on the thin rubber, and put on the some kind of sticky materials, and then sound coming and jumping up of the material, okay? And then, usually our naked eye, you cannot see the such kind of shape. This is a shooting by high-speed camera, 2,000 frames per second, and then make a such kind of ikebana like a shape, like these ones, like these ones. That's why I decide of this is the sound of ikebana. Yeah, in fact, I am already almost 40 years, working as a art and technology. And this is a kind of, result of the more business like, result of the selling of the interior like these ones. And first time try to the, like, showing to the movies and selling. Then like these ones. And then 2 years ago, in Japan Society in New York, as a Japan Society in New York, I talk about Japanese art and technology. Talk with Smithsonian's museums curator and Met museums curator too. So then, before I start of the cultural computing, I'm very interesting about relationship of the sound and images, and this is a more very experimental film, video art, and already collected MoMA, and this is 1985, a long time ago. I'm not sure you are born or not, and this is many display. Appear of the face photography, and then at the same time put on the light sensor on the screen, and then real time changing to the sound, low sound and high sound by real time. Then this is my first successful of the AI artwork. It's called, Neuro Baby. Neuro Baby responds to human emotional sound. Low voice, high voice, strong voice, weak voice. And then this is already, 30 years ago, my PhD thesis result. And even now, emotional AI is very harder to recognize. So even now, very harder to make a, application, and at that time, not so much talking to the word, high voice making happy or low voice making angry, like that. And recently, Professor Hinton received the Nobel Prize. Such kind of algorithm I'm using, back propagations. So, and then now I will show you about after that I will working of the MIT and making Zen AI. Zen AI is AI teaching about Zen Buddhism. So then I'm talking about another cultural computing. This is Asian perspective using making a sansui ink painting. But this is a non-drawing digital photography sansui ink painting. How to do that? Why this kind of things looks like something painting? Because using an Asian perspective called Sanyen, looking up and parallel view and then looking down for the one picture. And after that, I am delegated to the Kyoto's Zen temples, Kenninji. Then another one also, this is Kenninji's Zen temple's original, photography, and making make a art like photography, like these ones. Then And this one also you cannot see the your naked eye. This is a high-speed camera shooting for the flowers, but this is a not typical flowers. In fact, this flower dropping to the nitrogen. Nitrogen is a minus 200 degree, and then after the dropping of the flowers, just 15 seconds is like a grass like a behavior, and then at the same time pointing to the flowers, and then at the same time shooting by high-speed camera, and then make such kind of movies. Then this is a sound of Ikebana in the Times Square in New York. So, and also this is a Hawaii University's hero, very biggest planetarium, Imiroa Planetarium, and show to the sound of Ikebana. So, and then this is a kind of opening of the IGF Symposium. This is a United Nations organized symposium in Kyoto. Then last year is an Expo's year in Osaka, in Japan, and this thing is maybe after the Professor Nakatsu talking about that. This is a kind of healthcare and artwork, making a feedback. When people watching to the art, and at the same time shooting by the brain, not brain wave, brains blood flow, and then recognize of the human's emotional state. So, and then we are very happy things is, I'm living in Kyoto. Kyoto have many, Ikebanas, Iemoto, such kind of Ikenobos. Ikenobos parties, head of the, name is Ikenobo, Senko Ikenobo. Very love to the, our digital fashions. Yeah, I am not typical, fashion designer, but why I can do that? Because kind of, this is digital dyeing. Digital dyeing means, shooting by high-speed camera, sound of Ikebana, and then one frame adapting to the special, printer, and then press to the plus 200 degrees machine to the fabric, and then make this. And she is, using my clothes, using their own Ikebana performance. So now I will show about, just last month, fashion shows, almost, 80 clothes showing in there. This is how to making it. And then this is a baby's first voice, and I make such kind of sound of ubugoe. Japanese say ubugoe first voice. This is a special printer, and then press to the fabric. More loud sound. And then make a foodie, and also same time Japanese traditional fashions. You can see it, backside LED screen is real sound of Ikebana images. At the front of the model, put on the, a sound of clothes is made by the sound of Ikebana designs. Music is, very traditional Japanese music, and also compared to the Western music. And theme is, 4 seasons. Start of the spring. This sound is, typical, Happy New Year's song in Japan. And Western dancer appears. And Japan Society New York Theater, maybe almost 300 people coming and they watch this. Maybe you know this song, Japanese typical, sakura, cherry blossoms song. New York is, so many different, country people are coming. And also, they are not only model, they are, in fact, dancers. And some, pop culture also I include. So, for example, her model, models, hair is, Hatsune Miku's hair design. And the design looks like, image of the sakura, cherry blossom. This is a very special, fabric, lenticular lens, put on like a kimono way. Lenticular lens is usually, make animation, and model move, and design also move. And New York dancer. Dance background is almost ballet, like this. I am trying to how to more new type of the way of the combine using a cultural computing, Westerner and Asian, Japanese, especially Japanese. And the face is there put on the sound of Ikebana tattoo. And then sound changing. Vivaldi's, 4 seasons, spring. And accessory, jewelry is, I collaborate with a jewelry designer, Gucci's jewelry designer too. Okay, can you move to the summer? Yes. Before, more, little bit before. Yeah, good. Very good. And then a little bit skipped is very Japanese summer. But dancer is very Westerner. New York is a very famous dancer is, Martha Graham. We respect to the Martha Graham dance. This is a very special, lamb leather jacket printing on the sound of Ikebana. Some, flower iris. And then now you are looking to the this movie. You cannot see the your naked eye. Every movie is through the high-speed camera, 2,000 frames per second. This is a very traditional Japanese fashions. But usually men put on this fashion. It's called kataginu, and furisode is Japanese woman's put on, but put on together. And music. This movie is, concept is utsuroi. Utsuroi, Japanese called utsuroi. Utsuroi means, time tradition. But this is not only time traditions. Many we are, usually traditions. Life traditions, many things, meaning of the traditions. Very quiet and also, very memory of the pass away people. And then little bit, little bit fast. Yeah, faster. Yes, stop. Okay. Yeah, and then this is maybe some people know about that. This song is Kyoto's very famous, biggest festival called Gion Festival. Gion Festival means is pass away people, memory of the acclaim of the pass away people. And then go to the Faru. Go to the Faru. Yes, more. Okay. No, stop. This is a foul. Foul is very experimental, performance, and usually many dancers appear, but the dancer put on the very classical before movies, before movies movie. It means fickinoscope and like a kinemascope, like that. Just this kind of frame by frame images printing, and then when dancer start of the turn, and then strobe coming, and then making animations. I think of course I know I am using almost 30-40 years working with computer and media art, and of course very easy to using a computer, but people usually mistake and quite different each personality, and I won't show about that. Okay, please go to the winter. Yes. And the winter is fighting. Fighting Japanese famous story is Genji and Heike. And this is original one is come from the no theater. And Heike becomes failed, and Genji killed the neck of the Heike's young king. Stop. And then this is a very experimental fashion. LED armor. And this is a famous Heike stories singing a song. And the background is, my artwork, Heike stories called Gion Shouja. And fighting Heike and Genji. And also, fashion is, food court is very special one. Usually Japanese firefighter put on this kind of fabric, because this food coat is cannot protect the fire, and also not so much easy to cut. And then please go to the final. Go. Stop. もうちょっと。Please. More before. This is all. Stop. Yeah. Almost. This is the final scene. And then this is the final scenes. Heike's young king died. Very, very big fashion shows. So now I have to change to the Professor Nakatsu.
Okay, I'm not an artist. My background is pure engineering. So the reason why I'm here is probably, I think, to supplement Prof. Tosa's presentation. So let's start from a very simple question. So please, okay, this one. Probably we can understand that people frequently feel towards something, wow, it's beautiful. but why we feel beauty to something, right? For example, this kind of sunset. Sunset had nothing to do with our life or our pleasure, but still we feel, wow, it's beautiful. So the question, basic question, simple but basic question is, what is beauty? Then, as an extension of what is beauty, what is art? So this has been my long-term question. And recently, I'm trying to approach these questions using psychology and neuroscience. And today, in my very short presentation, I want to show you some of the recent, research results I obtained. It's very simple, but still, I think it's very interesting. So let's start. Okay, the next one. This is, of course, the very famous Mona Lisa. And actually, there are many researches that has shown that viewing art can make people relaxed. But when, viewing this very famous Mona Lisa, we naturally think that, of course, great artworks have more power than only simply making people relaxed. So in my recent research, I showed we have shown that viewing art can increase human creativity and motivation. So based on in our intuition, that is natural one, but still we proved this based on our research. So let's go to the next one. Sorry. Again. For this research, first thing we did is to construct very small, capsule that consists of several mirror displays that has a function of both mirrors and displays. And inside this mirror display, for example, when we showed Tosa art, artworks of Tosa, Prof. Tosa, it is light size, photo showed how it looks. At the same time, we prepared very simple geometric figures such as circles, squares, to compare with artworks. But even in the case of simple geometric figures, it looks very beautiful, when showed in this small capsule. And we asked subjects to evaluate Tosa art in this immersive space. And the result, next one is the result. So first one is the evaluation items rated to relaxed. And at ease, secure, present, relaxed, and healed. For these evaluation items, people highly evaluated artworks compared with simple geometric figures or no content. This is very simple because there are many researches that have shown this kind of research. But the next one, for evaluation items rated to creativity, human creativity and motivation, such as associate, immersive, motivated, inspired, and also in the dome, you can see that the people highly evaluate artworks. Viewing artworks has more effect than viewing simple figures or no content. So based on this, we have proved that viewing artworks represented by Tosa art in an immersive space can increase human creativity and motivation. So that is one result. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so this is another very famous, well-known artwork. And you will think that it's beautiful, but at the same time, it's fearful, right? So I think that great artwork has a sense of, give people the sense of fear alongside its beauty. Okay, so let's investigate this based on research. So what we did is we we prepared, a condition where Tosa art is shown on the floor, and we asked subject to evaluate Tosa art from 3 different positions. And the result showed that evaluation results, showed that evaluation items are clearly classified into 2 groups. So this one group is highly rated group, consisting of evaluation items such as beautiful, interesting, varied, fussy, unique. This is extraordinary pleasure sense, right? At the same time, low-rated group consists of evaluation items that familiar, calm, and warm. So this means that ordinary discomfort. So we found that viewing Tosa art simultaneously elicited extraordinary pleasure and ordinary discomfort in people. So again, this is intuitively very natural, but we have shown this is true based on our research. And final one, that was actually I did not expect, but as I said, we asked subject to evaluate Tosa art from 3 different positions. And the results show that there were no significant differences in evaluation scores among the 3 different viewing positions. What does this mean? It's very important. So this means that humans can recognize the actual value of great art regardless of the exhibition conditions. So in other words, even if great artwork is displayed, exhibited with a very gorgeous frame in a great museum, or even if it is shown in a dirty old shop, still people can understand its real value. That is human power. That is amazing. Okay, so that is probably, I think, the difference between AI and human. Okay, that is the end of my speech. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's start the Q&A now. Really fascinating work, and so very different in so many different ways. I'm going to start off by asking Nauka and Rio. I'll share the question to both of you because you're intimate partners working together. And this is just something because your work speaks to me very much on a cultural level. There's this very popular idea that Japan has a natural affinity with technology. But do you think that this narrative risks becoming a kind of myth? In your work, are you reinforcing that story or gently breaking it apart, deconstructing that, dismantling that myth? Because when people think of Japan, oftentimes people who have never been there think that, oh, this is such a technological place, right?
Oh, really?
But yeah, but in actuality, it really isn't, right?
One of the reasons because I'm living in Kyoto, not Tokyo. Yeah, Kyoto have many, natural phenomena and many temple and shrine and many very, traditional art master living in there. When we are a child, historical things in there. We are living with history. And that's why, I am very loving to the Kyoto. And also I love to the New York too. Very different, very different. But, and also, I am somehow very interested about, art and technology. When I was before 20s. Before 20s, I am a very inspired from video art, especially, Namjoon Pike, Hak Namjoon. Yeah, and also, not only video art, art and science. Not, computer, before the computer. Many light art, kinetic art, very, very, very interested about that. I am not so much, creative of the, oil painting or the, just only, white paper. I want making I want, generating my creativity, not put on the paper. I am using, watching to the, technology, especially new technology. I am a very interested about, generate of my creativity. That's why. And also, I am a very interested about, even, culture is not chaos. In many culture, Western culture is very, popular in a very, cultural form. And on the other hand, when I was living in Boston, I was working at MIT, and I can find all the Japanese, hidden form, but never, such kind of using for the technology. Never, not so much, people, especially artists, designer, talk about that. And that's why, writing a book and also, teaching, and I'm making art too. Yeah.
How about you, Rio? How would you respond to that question?
Okay. I think the relationship between Japanese people and technology is in somewhat, somewhat special. Of course, the Japanese people like technology very much, but at the same time, in somewhat, special way. That is a way why there are so many otaku in Japan, right? So that is sometimes. And also Japan, Japanese people like, kawaii, right? And there are so many technologies that shows kawaii, such as anime and other things. And I think these are the strengths and at the same time weakness of Japan.
Okay. I move on to Siobhan. You talked about your work with mourning and grief and using technology for it. If grief when we understand grief, we see it traditionally as being something that's shaped with absence. When your work reinduces a form of presence through voice, image, and even visual, what kind of emotional space are you trying to create? Continuation, transformation, or something more unresolved?
I think, to be fair with my work, Eva that I created, she isn't human, so she didn't die. But it does speak into the idea of grief tag, and I think, grief is a thing that humans go through, and to face it face on is probably something that requires a lot of courage and the ability to just go through the pain, right? And I do think with a lot of this grief tag, it really depends how you go towards it, because it can just easily go both ways, right? Like you could use it as a way to just remember, or you could use it as a way to be in a delusion where the person has never left, which is very, very unhealthy. But I mean, I think a lot of times the reason why it's so attractive is just because we don't want to lose that person, right? And it's then thinking about this future that's coming and how do we direct that energy of wanting that person back in a way that's actually healthy. I think that's why I wanted to start on this project, so I could really see where AI is at, where AI is going towards, and how do I prepare myself for the future that's coming.
I think one of the things about grief tech is that the let's call it the industry that's out there point to the genealogy or the study of grief and mourning, and it began, from what I understand, in modern psychology. It was Sigmund Freud. He wrote a book called Mourning and Melancholy. And for a long time, that became, in the early 20th century, as the pillar of sort of trying to psychoanalysis. And his idea was to cure it, that you had to cure grief. And then somewhere along the lines in the 20th century, late 20th century, the idea became, the accepted idea is that you don't try to repair the individual. You try to find ways to reorganize their life with the idea of keeping that person in mind. And in Asian culture, I think that's always been there, right? When somebody dies in Asian culture, it's very important to keep a memento mori, a shrine in the house, literally in the house, right? There's always the grave on the outside that you visit on weekends and stuff, but that constant reminder of that person is there. Whereas in Western culture, the normative way of understanding it is we put the person 6 feet under. We get rid of them, right? We get rid of the image of them. So
yeah, but like I guess like when you say about 20th century, if like we bring it to modern movies like Inside Out, we start to learn like yes, there is negative emotions, but we need them as humans to live life and appreciate the good, right? And that forms who we are as people. Like there is good, there is bad, and we face them together. And I think with the idea of grief tag, it also is really how do you approach it. Like I had watched this documentary in CNA where it's basically a Singapore documentary about this mother who had breast cancer and 4 kids. And so but the way she used grief tag is to provide advice to the kids in the way that like she'll basically video herself answering all of these questions that she thinks her kids might ask one day, so that eventually when the kids do, they can hear it from their mother's voice, from their mother's face, even though they know their mom's not there. So I think it's just there has to be ways that we can do it that is healthy, that we don't lose legacy, right? Like we have all of this older generation who have passed away with stories that we will never hear again. But using AI, if we do it correctly and reduce the hallucination, we could really save some history and save the way how we think about people who passed away, as long as we really do pay attention to how we are approaching it.
Yeah, there are several museums both in South Africa and in the States where they're employing the technology with veterans of World War II, because most veterans of World War II are now in their late 80s or 90s, and so they're using the technology so that they're recording the life experiences of these people, so that visitors who come to these museums, and also Holocaust museums are doing that too, to archive the personal histories of people. So I think in that side of it, it's very...
Yeah, but I also think when it comes to family history, right, like I didn't really know my grandpa very well. I didn't really hear much stories for him, so whatever stories that he knew ended with him, right? But like if we could find a way to continue the stories, the things that we want to pass down to the younger generation, the next generation, and this is a way to do it, it's something to look at.
Yeah. And also because we live in a digital culture now. And so it makes sense that when we pass on, we leave so many digital remains, so many traces of us, whether it on Facebook or whether it on our phone. And people are already, there's so many instances of people who have been documented not using grief tech, but keeping the phone subscription of their husband or their deceased husband active because they want to phone that phone and they want to hear that ring, So I think it's really interesting. Nolan, a question for you. Your work seems to move from the very lived experience of the pandemic, which seemed to be a formative part of a lot of your work, being confined to screens and governed by systems like health codes, and I'm sure in China it was very, very draconian and rigorous, towards a more speculative exploration of human-machine relations. As you expand your practice across design, art, research, are you trying to critically reflect that condition, or are you trying to imagine ways of reconfiguring it? And where in that process do you locate your own sense of agency and action?
I think the reason why, first of all, the reason why I chose a more academic side of it to continue study in a graduate school, it's because I think it's during 2022 to 2023, I feel like as an artist or as a designer, I kind of feel stuck in a way of I don't think I can make something new anymore, and as I really dive deeper into the whole topic of the advanced technology, society, how people are living their daily life, how cultural elements like Siobhan just mentioned that how cultural background actually makes us different when we're trying to interpret the same technology. I think I feel stuck as a creative. I don't know what to do with it. And then I feel like I need to find more answers and to read more books, to really see what scholars are doing in this field and to really dive into the real life cases that maybe I can find something different. So as soon as I got, because the irony is I was using my portfolio to apply for art university, and all the professors are basically saying that your portfolio, it's a little bit too academic. But when I apply for an academic program, they're like, oh, your paper is a little bit too artistic. So then I kind of like, at first I was, devastated and confused. I feel like, oh, I don't belong to anywhere. Where should I stand on? But later I kind of, I kind of figured out a way to do it, because why not just do both? And later I also talked to other creatives and also professors at the university. I found out actually a lot of them are, their real job is not being a professor. They're artists or they're photographers outside of the schools. They're just here trying to, again, for the similar reason, they're here trying to talk to people, to again, shape conversations, and they can really find answers and maybe new problems and questions during that conversation, and maybe can drag that kind of knowledge and questions and everything into the creative process. And I think that is what works for me, and I do think that it's the way to go, and especially with the usage of AI. And as Siobhan said, a lot of artists are feeling really afraid or scared, when AI came out. But I do feel like it's just like any kind of new form of media. Like once television came out, I'm sure that everybody was freaked out back then. And like video games, right? Everything new that has to go through a process. It's just because AI evolved so quickly that I don't think anyone is prepared for that. Even the creator or the programmer of the industry, I don't feel like they are ready yet. So yeah. So in conclusion, I do think it's a good idea to kind of be a multidisciplinary artist, but also be a person, a human being that's in the intersection of every field. So yeah, that's my answer.
Okay, thank you. We have a couple minutes left, so I'd just like to offer the audience here. Anyone who has a question, please, for any of our panelists. Yes.
Hello. Yes, it's about your project with Ava. I saw that one of the slides says the dates of the project, which is November 25. So I was just wondering why you shut down this project. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So basically, the way the project ran was that people were able to chat with her. But as long as generative AI is going on, I'm paying for it. So eventually, I was like, I'm not going to pay for it forever. And also, like that aside, I was also thinking with this project that I really wanted to capture this period between 2024, 2025, where it's like a really brand new thing. Like, oh my God, I'm speaking to an AI that is just weird, right? Because in a few more months, in a few more years, like it's just gonna be so normal. And I really wanted to focus it on a period where it was just really strange. So I just kept it during that period.
But you wouldn't think about like monetizing it, right? Okay.
Next questions? Well, we're reaching the very end here, and it's been a long day, and I think I'm going to say going once, going twice, going 3 times. Okay, then we'll call it a day. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you very much for the artists, and also to the BACC team. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As we come to the close of today's symposium, AI Imaginaries, Authorship, Creativity and Authenticity. On behalf of Bangkok Arts and Culture Center, I would like to thank you all the speakers, participants, and also the organizer who has been sharing in the part of such an amazing and inspiring exchange of today. And if you are enjoying with our programs or any activities here, please stay connected with us through our website bacc.or.th or Facebook fan page BACC. So for the upcoming event, I hope that I will see you guys again, and we look forward to welcoming you here again at BACC. So have a wonderful evening, and thank you all of you. ขอบคุณค่ะ